Hello Seals, hope you're all well. So today I'm going to be reading a page from this book here, which is Great Women Who Changed the World. There's also another book sort of similar to this, which is Great Women Who Made History. And I also know that in class we have a book, and I think it's Children Who Dare to Be Different. So when I'm in school next, I will grab the book and I'll read one from there as well. But today I thought I would pick a page from this book about a child called Anne Frank. So here is what the page looks like. So, during World War II, Anne Frank, a girl who dreamed of becoming a writer, had to go into hiding with her family. The war meant life was very unsafe for Jewish people, like the Franks, because they were persecuted by the Nazi Party. This meant that Jews were treated unfairly and sent to prison camps, even though they had done nothing wrong. The Franks hid in a secret annex, so sort of at the back of a building, a few concealed rooms in the factory Anne's father ran before the war. They couldn't take many possessions with them, but Anne made sure she took her diary. So I was really lucky. In February, I went and visited the house, and it's at the back, but the way they got through is they hid behind a bookshelf, and it was a tiny little sort of frame to get through, and I struggled to get through it. So a big tall man getting through it would have been really hard, and the rooms were really bare and there wasn't anything in them. So the Frank family, so who was hiding was Anne's father Otto Frank, Anne's mother Edith Frank, Anne's sister Margot Frank, and then Anne herself. And Anne wrote diaries and she addressed them to her imaginary friend called Kitty. So I'll read part of the diary. So it was June 1942. Dearest Kitty, I hope I will be able to confide everything to you as I have never been able to confide in anyone. Yours faithfully, Anne Frank, age 13, Amsterdam, the Netherlands. So they were terrified that their place was going to be discovered, and it says nobody knew about their hiding place apart from their trusted friends who brought them supplies. It was an entrance hidden behind a bookshelf. So people, because they couldn't go to the shop and they needed stuff to eat, people were bringing them supplies. So they could only trust a very small amount of people that were bringing them supplies. So it says Anne and Margot on the beach. And they lived a happy life before the war. Anne in her diary, so the diary that you can buy, poured out all her hopes and her frustrations and her fears. She said Anne missed her cat, which is called, I can't pronounce that, Mortgage, who she had to leave behind. And she says food was scarce in the annex, but Anne knew she must put up with it. So they didn't have that much food in there. Even in the war, not many people had much food. They had to have ration books. So here she said she's got lettuce, potato and cabbage and pickled kale, which doesn't sound very appealing to me. Might be to some of you. It says more people who needed to hide. So more people who needed to hide came to live with the Franks. Anne found sharing a small space with 8 people very difficult. So it wasn't just the Frank family in there. The Van Pell family came. Someone called Fritz Prefer. I can't read that, I'm very sorry. And then Anne's family, so there was 8 of them in a tiny space. They weren't all in one room, but there was beds in the kitchen. When I went, there was a bed in the kitchen, and then Anne had a tiny room, and there wasn't anything like in our rooms where we have toys to play and stuff. There wasn't much toys to play. So then Anne also said in her diary, so after all of this, after being forced to hide, and she didn't have anywhere, she couldn't leave the house, and she hadn't even done anything wrong, she said, I still believe in spite of everything that people are truly good at heart. So she's still thinking that people are really nice, like everyone's really nice, even though she's having to hide just because she was a Jewish. So Anne's diary is a book that touched the world. After 2 years, everyone living in the annex was discovered and sent to prison camps. Tragically, only Anne's father survived the war. As a tribute to his amazing daughter, Otto Frank published Anne's diary. It is a book considered to be one of the most important in history. Anne never stopped dreaming of a better future. Her hope, talent and bravery has touched millions of people around the world who have read Anne's diary of a young girl. So it's a really moving book to read, and it's a really moving story, and they were in there for 2 years before they got caught, and then unfortunately none of them survived the war. So there's lots of other Rosa Parks is in here. We can read about Rosa Parks. Who else is in here? Agent Fifi. I know that when we watched the Year 6 Waxwork Museum, there was a few agents in the war, so that was quite an interesting one, so maybe we can read that one next. But there's loads of really great books in here. And if you have this, I know lots of you have this book and this book at home, so if you do, you can tell me what your favourite story is on Seesaw. Okay, thank you for watching today, and I will see you all tomorrow.